Grade 9 math, 4.4, matching graphs and equations. So we've already talked about slope-intercept form. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some graphs and figure out which equations go with them. So Bruce, Monica, and Sari participated in a 5-kilometer walk for charity. So each graph shows how they get their money from their sponsor. So what we look at here is, okay, let's look at Sari. 0 distance, $0. 2 kilometers, 8. 4 kilometers, 16. Yeah, so we can figure this out based on this. The amount of money, right? So M is money, D is distance. So basically, there is no y-intercept, or well, I guess the y-intercept is 0. So there's like a plus 0 after here. So if you look, there's a plus 3 here and a plus 5. So that it has to be this first one here, M equals 4D, because it would be plus 0. We just don't write it in. But let's double check, right? So if the distance is 0, 4 times 0 is 0. Yeah, that works. If the distance is 2, 4 times 2 is 8. Yeah, that works for that one. If the distance is 4, 4 times 4 is 16. Yeah, it works for that one. So that one's pretty easy for Sari. So let's look at the other ones here. We got a plus 3 and a plus 5. So if you want to, you can actually just base these graphs looking at the y-intercept. This one has plus 3. So if you look, yeah, there's the plus 3. That one, oh, that there, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, so that's probably a plus 5. So that's probably the D plus 5. But let's double check. So let's look at this first one. M equals 2D plus 3. So let's try 0. So 2 times 0 is 0 plus 3. Yeah, that would be the starting point there. Then we can look at what if it was 2. Can we see that one? Yeah, that's pretty good. That works out. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 3 is 7. Yeah, that's the one there. You can see it's 7 there. And then we can do 4 if we wanted to. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 3, 11. Yeah, that works. So then we end up with that equation. Double check this one if you want to. 0. 0 plus 0 works out 0 plus 5. Yeah, 5. Let's figure out 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. Yeah, that works out that way. So you can base it just on the y-intercept as long as they're in slope-intercept form. For instance, if these equations weren't that way, you'd have to rearrange them. Okay, go to the next page and let's take a look at this one here. So 3 graphs below, not in order. Let's figure out each one. Now, this one's in the slope y equals mx plus b. This one is also, this one's not. So let's rearrange this one. So move the x to the other side. So that's, yeah, y equals negative x plus 3. Now, don't forget, even on this first one, the slope is 3. That means 3 over 1. We just don't write it in. Here, between the negative and the x is a 1, so negative 1 over 1. That just gives us an idea of which way the slope is going. So for instance, if you look, you could look at slope in this case. Positive slope, negative slope. Look at the graphs. There. B and C are both positive, but A is a negative. Let's check to see if that's the one. So we end up with y equals negative x plus 3, so it has a y-intercept of 3. Yeah, down 1 over 1, down 1 over, yeah. So that's got to be this one here at y equals negative x plus 3, or same thing, x plus y equals 3. Let's look at this one here. The y-intercept is negative 3. Do we have a negative 3 here for y-intercept? Yeah, there it is right there. Y equals 3x minus 3. So the slope is 3 in this case, so 3 over 1. So up 3, sorry, 1, 2, 3 over 1. 1, 2, 3 over 1. Yeah, that works. So that's y equals 3x minus 3 is for graph B. By default, this one would have to be for C, but let's check. The y-intercept is plus 3. Yeah, plus 3 right there. You can see it. And it goes up 3, 1, 2, 3 over 1, 1, 2. Yeah, that works. So if you need to, rearrange them into y equals mx plus b. And look at the slope. Look at the y-intercept. There's lots of different ones, lots of different ways that'll get you the answer. Okay, next page. Wow, look at all these ones. There's a whole bunch on the graph. It's kind of a mess. But if you look, they all go through the origin. So they all have a y-intercept of 0. So that doesn't help us. So if you look at all these ones here, it's going to be plus 0, plus 0, plus 0. We don't write them in. But let's talk about the slopes. So in front of this x is 1, so 1 over 1, positive slope. This one is 2, so that's 2 over 1, positive slope. This one's negative 3, so negative 3 over 1, negative slope. You can see right away, yeah, the negative slope is the green one in this case for graph B. So that would be, and if you look, we start from the origin, we go down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1. Yeah, it works. Let's look at the red and the blue. So start at the origin. Let's look at the red one. Looks like it goes up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. So the slope is, yeah, there it is there, y equals 2x. That's got to be A. By default, the blue one has to be C here. Well, let's double check. Go to the origin, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up, yeah, slope is 1. So it's got to be C in this case. So there's multiple ways to do this. The y-intercept is all 0 in this case, so we look at the slope. Okay, next page. Let's talk about parallel lines. Parallel lines are interesting because parallel lines have the same slope, right? If you look at the graph, they all have the same slope, but they have different y-intercepts. So we need to know, so look at this one here. It says y equals 3x minus 4. So they all have the same slope of up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1. So the giveaway in this case is the negative 4, the y-intercept. So look at this graph and find where the y-intercept is negative 4. There it is right there. It's Roman numeral 3 or blue. Yeah, there it is right there. And then we can go up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1. Yeah, that's the same thing. So when you're dealing with parallel lines, they have the same slope. You definitely have to look at the y-intercept. Okay, next page. Match each equation with the graph below. Justify your answer. Well, if you look at these, oh boy, they're all mixed up. Should we put them in slope-intercept form? Why not? It's good practice. So let's do the first one. Subtract x from both sides, so we end up with y equals negative x plus 4. That's nice. That's already in. That's now in slope-intercept form. Good. Here, x minus y equals 4. Move the negative x over. Oh yeah, y has to be by itself and it has to be positive, so we can multiply by negative 1. So then we end up with y equals x minus 4. And the last one here, x minus y equals negative 4. Move the x again, times by negative 1. We end up with y equals x plus 4. Okay, now let's match up the graphs. So let's look at the first one. First one has a y-intercept of positive 4. Yeah, that could be the first graph. You can see right there. It could also be the second graph. And oh, no, it can't be the third. So it could either be 1 or 2. So then we can look at the slope. It's a negative slope. That means down 1 over 1. So if we go here, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. Yeah. Here, this one would be up 1 over 1, up now. So no, that's positive slope. So for this one, it has to be A. So the little Roman numeral 1 here has to be graph A. Let's look at B now. So we have y equals x minus 4. So the y-intercept is negative 4. There's only one with a slope of negative, or sorry, with a y-intercept of negative 4 right there. And the slope in this case is positive 1. So up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. So this has to be, down here has to be B. Roman numeral 3 has to go with B. And by default, right, that has to be C, but let's double check. So y equals x plus 4. Okay, y-intercept is positive 4. Slope is positive 1, means up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Yeah, so that has to be C. But it works out. So even though, you know, the default one is, oh, the other two are taken, that has to be the last one, you should always double check to make sure that you've done it correctly. Okay, next page. Oh boy. So we got, got a graph here. We got to match up those equations. Oh boy. So let's do this here. We can look at, well, let's look at this graph. What can we see from this graph? We see the y-intercept is 3. Yeah, m has to be 3. Oh, sorry, the y-intercept b has to be 3. And the slope is 3. You can go up 1, 2, 3 over 1. Yeah, so the slope has to be 3. So the equation has to be y equals 3x plus 3. Well, if you look at any of these equations up there, they don't look like that because they're not in slope-intercept form. So let's rearrange one. So let's pick one. So I picked, let's pick 2. So 3x minus y equals negative 3. Move the negative 3x to the other side. So negative y equals negative 3x minus 3 times everything by negative 1. Y equals 3x plus 3. Yeah, that's it. See, they match. That has to be the one. So it has to go with Roman numeral 2. Now, again, you could look up the top here. You can see all those. You just have to rearrange them and go through them. Okay.